I so need an O gauge B4. It really is an unbelievably powerful locomotive. A big hello to you, so great to see you, and I hope you're keeping well in this really hot weather that we're having. And certainly the time of filming, it's still hot, sunny, humid, and that's why we've got fans still on up here, just trying to keep me and the layout cool. But today we've got something in the senior scales. We're going O gauge, and it's the turn of Dapol with their all-new O gauge B4 dock tank. Now this is a model that they've brought out quite a while ago now in 00, and it was really well received, having a number of different releases, and certainly it's one of my favourite small steam shunting locomotives, and I've got two of them in my collection. But Dapol have always had an eye on expanding their O gauge range, and this B4 dock tank is certainly a perfect model to upscale just a little bit and put into the range. But it's not just a bigger version of that 00 model, it's all new, tooled from scratch, and has some really quite nice features. We're also going to be doing a full DCC fitting guide, so if you want some advice on doing that, then stay tuned for towards the last third of the video, and we'll be using the Trainomatic 21-pin decoder, and I'll be showing you just how simple it is to DCC fit these models yourself. Is this going to live up to the expectations that we've had based on the 00 gauge model? Is it going to fall into some of the pitfalls that that model did? Well, you're going to have to come with me, and let's take a good close look in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCC decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabrique.co.uk. Additional support comes from...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model 00 gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest loco.
But first, I'd like to ask a big favour. Do please tickle the like button, share the video, and consider subscribing to the channel. And you can also find us over on Patreon and help support the channel to keep making the videos that you want to see. But back to today's video, and if you really do like the look of the model that you see here today, we've got an affiliate link down below that takes you to Rails of Sheffield, where you can get them at a great price for what's available on the market. But is the model any good? Is it worth picking up yourself if you're into O gauge? Well, come with me and let's take a good close look. One of my favourite 00 models from Dapol is the B4 dock tank, and the examples that I ended up buying you can see here. This beautiful pea green London and South Western Railway version is number 91. Was the first that I bought. It was a Dapol Collectors Club model, and so good was it in my eyes that I then went and bought Guernsey in this darker green, and certainly representing one of the examples that worked at Southampton Docks, with a much more open cab which gave a greater field of visibility at the expense of crew protection. When Dapol announced that they were going to build a O gauge model of these, I was really quite interested. I'm really getting into the O gauge modelling, and certainly it's something which Dapol have been excelling at, making this senior scale certainly something that is very affordable to the modeler. Now, it used to be the case that O gauge was the preserve of those who had very deep pockets, with ready-to-run models being astronomical in price, and in the main you were left to build kits and finish them yourself, And that in and of itself is a massive skill which I certainly don't have. So when the Terrier first appeared in O gauge, I have to say that I was incredibly impressed and really sold on these value for money O gauge models. This has been provided on loan from Dapol, so it does have to go back after the review. It's number 7S018005, and this is the B4 dock tank in the BR Lake Crest livery as number 30096. There are a number of different livery options available, and I did see that one of them was this amazing pea green one, which my 00 model is of. I am quite tempted to pick that up at some point, but for now we've got the loaner model from Dapol, and it comes in the nice and solid Dapol box. Just inside we've got the booklet that comes with all of their O gauge models. We've got a brief history here of the class dating to 1890, designer built by Adams, ordering 20 of these 4-coupled tank engines from Nine Elms Works, the design being preferred to the 6-coupled because of the many poorly laid out goods yards and the sharply curved Catwater and Sutton Harbour lines at Plymouth. And when the South Western gained control of Southampton docks in 1892, 2 engines were transferred there with the cab front and back sheets cut away, just as we saw with Guernsey, and you can see there that Jersey and Guernsey were those 2, with over the next 12 years 12 more transferred there, and these were only really replaced when the USA tanks were bought just after the Second World War for running at the docks, and they themselves were then replaced by the Class 07. 2 of the class were preserved and can be seen at preserved railways. Now we've got some information on unboxing, and you'll see that the locomotive does come on an acrylic plinth, and we've got a little bit of information on DCC Fitting, and this follows the really quite ingenious design which Dapol have used for their GWR Moguls, the D-Class, and the Manners, and this really does make DCC Fitting quite easy, and it's really interesting to see that this is now transferring to the O gauge models, and this is very different to the method with which the 00 gauge model was DCC fitted. We've also got easy sound installation, and certainly I'm really quite interested to see how well the DCC fitting goes, and we will be doing that later in the video utilizing a Trainomatic decoder. First things first, I'm going to pull it out of the box, and the acrylic plinth actually does make it really easy to get this in and out of the box without risking any kind of damage to the model. To get the model clear of the acrylic plinth, which is actually perfect if you want to display this model, just gives it an extra degree of stability. We've got 2 screws underneath, and you just need a larger crosshead style screwdriver, and we're just going to undo both of these, and the locomotive comes cleanly away. And just pay attention if you should need to put it back in the box. We've got the longer screw with the longer collar at the back of the locomotive, and the slightly shorter screw with the much shorter brass collar is to the front of the model, should you need to put that back in there. Just going to put that out of the way in the box. Now in the box it should also be pointed out that we do have some extra detail parts. We've got this vacuum brake stand and a couple of lamp irons as well, but everything else comes factory fitted to the model. And in fact the rear of the vacuum standards is there on the model. First impressions are that there is a lot of weight. I mean, a real lot of weight. If you think that some of the new large diesel class locomotives that are coming through in 00 are heavy, they haven't got a patch on the amount of weight that has been built into these models, and it really does give a good quality feel. These also have removable cab roofs, which gives a really easy way of adding a crew in there. And these are held in place just by magnets. We've got the two powerful neodymium magnets there out of the way on the top, and they actually just attract to these two nuts which are fastened in place. So it really is desperately easy, and you don't need any tools whatsoever to be able to get the cab roof on and off. This particular example appears to be one of the locomotives which had worked at places like Southampton Docks, but had then subsequently had its more open cab plated in. There are a number of different cab designs which Dapol have tooled for, just as they did with the 00 gauge model, and this is the third of the types over and above the two which I showed you on those 00 models, and I believe all are available in the O gauge range. You can see we've still got that large central porthole, but the bits of the cab that had been cut out have been plated back in, and these small characteristic square windows have been put in. And again, at the front of the locomotive, we've got the two square windows, and the large porthole remains in the centre. The cab interior, I'll just take the roof off so we can really get a good look at this. The cab interior has a lot of detail, and absolutely, when you look at the back head in there, there is so many in the way of separately applied pieces in there. It really is quite exquisite. And what I would say is that the BR black livery doesn't show them off quite as well as some of the lighter coloured liveries, but certainly it is an amazing cab interior. The rest of the model is not neglected. Looking out over the boiler and the tanks, there is a wealth of separately fitted detail. We've got these toolboxes on the top, lifting eyes for the tanks, and then we've got the safety valve cover and the whistle there on the side, which looks to be a turned metal piece. The characteristically large dome is fitted flush. It's difficult to see whether that is a separate piece that is glued in or whether it's all part of the same moulding, but certainly there's no sign of join lines in there. And then we've got the characteristic front shape of the smoke box, and that funnel is all there. The funnel appears to be a two-piece, so we've got a funnel cap which there is a join just round there. It's not too noticeable, and it does mean that Dapol can offer the earlier Adams style stovepipe as well as this later type funnel with the flared top. The printing on the sides of the tanks is crisp and clear, with the later BR totem and the 30096 with the 1F above being really crisp and clear. The black finish is a kind of satin, so there's a degree of shine but not overpoweringly so, and certainly this really captures that kind of slightly oily sheen that BR black locos did have back in the day, and certainly a very light pass over with weathering would really bring this model alive. Looking to the front cylinders, these are actually quite huge on the B4. One thing I would say though is it looks a little bit Spartan just underneath here. We've got the 3-link style coupling and the guard irons, but when I compare that to some of the detailing that's on the 00 version, there appears to be a little bit less going on, but I suspect, actually looking at that, that's an illusion brought out by the fact that the 00 model has their coupling placed there, and actually it should be fairly Spartan as per the O gauge model, which doesn't have the restriction of that bulky coupling in place. The rest of the detail underneath is factory fitted. We've got the brake rigging and the representation of the springs as well. All of the sand pipes are in place, and these are quite springy, so they will take some punishment without breaking. And then we've got the handbrake mechanism, which is actually entirely accurate. It doesn't move, but it is it looks as good as if it could. We've also got additional pipework here at the back, the rear guard irons, and these feel metal. I'm going to say that these are probably bent out of brass, but certainly they do take a lot of stick without any sign of getting damaged. The steps too are metal, as is the running plate, and again, really quite fine detail on those. They're rugged, but they do capture the look of the prototype perfectly well. Now, looking to the underside, one of the things I've noticed, which is really good, is that we've got drive to the rear axle, which doesn't have any slop in it, but the front axle has a degree of side to side and up and down movement. And this is perfect for a 4-coupled locomotive. What it actually means is that this can follow the undulations in the track without cocking a wheel up, and that really does improve the way in which it will run reliably. It won't run the risk of derailing, of flange climbing, and these are actually quite slender flanges, but it also means that it's going to have 4 wheels on your track at all times, which really does aid the current pickup. Looking down the funnel, we've got that pleasing darkness that goes down and down. Can't see the bottom, but that's exactly what you want. And I do really like the pipework here at the front. A lot of separately applied details. And then looking to the other side, again, we've got more of that pipework. The handrails are metal and actually very robust. And then we do actually have lamp irons at the front. It's out of the box, really just ready to go. Sprung buffers, and these do have quite a good spring to them, and this is necessary. In O gauge, you're going to need that spring because that is how the locomotives and the rolling stock work pretty much as per the prototype. It's not like OO or N gauge where the coupling does all the heavy lifting. These buffers will actually have to earn their keep with the spring that they have. The motion and wheels are all metal, chemically blackened, really do look great. And when the model is in motion, they have a really pleasing motion to them. The counterweights on the wheels are as per the prototype. The spokes are perfectly captured, and we've also got the brake blocks lining up with the wheels and some more of the chassis detail in there. It's quite a powerful motor, and whilst the layout which I have isn't the biggest, it was really quite happy trundling up and down. Didn't really tax it with wagons, but it really did feel, when you put a finger out just to see how much push it had, it was almost impossible to get it to skid. It would tend to stall rather than skid, given the amount of traction that this has got. It really is an unbelievably powerful locomotive. On DC, it ran perfectly, and one thing to note is that the firebox glow that this comes fitted with comes on at quite a low voltage and stays on. It appears to be quite a stable brightness, which is really quite nice, and only goes off below maybe about 1.5 volts, which really was quite impressive. When it comes to DCC fitting, I'm going to be using the Train-O-Matic 21-pin decoder, and we've got a link in the description box which takes you to tramfabrique.co.uk, the UK stockist of the full Train-O-Matic range. Unfortunately, as this is a loaner, we don't have the plastic tool, so we're going to have to improvise a little bit. I'm just going to get my fingernail underneath the smokebox door, and this is actually accurately hinged. So we can pull that open, and inside is revealed the daughter board that I'm just going to very carefully hook into. There is a special tool that you should get with your model. As I said before, as this is a loaner, it seems to have not made the journey with it, but it's still really easy to pull out this daughter board, and you can see there is a lot of space inside there. I really do love the fact that we don't need to dismantle this model. We've got two speaker enclosures underneath for the sound installation, and it has to be said that a factory sound installation is available. Just use small sugar cube speakers. They fit into this using the enclosures as the resonance chamber. We've got solder-free tabs on the board, which means that you can just press them into place and they will work without you needing to mess about with any kind of soldering. The 21-pin socket is here at the back, and I'm just going to very gently just rock that free. I love the fact that we can do this effectively away from the locomotive. Just take that off, and then the 21-pin decoder, line up with the pins and gently push that all the way back home. And that's all you need to do. And you can see here that there's plenty of space above the board that if you really wanted to, you could fit a smart power pack. Although, in all honesty, I didn't see any need to when I was running this locomotive on DC. It was very sure-footed, even when being run slowly through point work. It showed no propensity to stutter whatsoever. With the decoder back on the board, we need to line this daughter board up with the runners. Just inside there's like a runner either side that it slides down into, and that lines everything up that you can then just gently push it in, and we get that positive connection. Shut the smoke box door, and there we have it. With the locomotive DCC fitted, I've got it on my rolling road, and let's just start to apply power, and you can see that it very smoothly starts to pull away. It really is a super smooth mechanism and very controllable. As you can see, there's no sense of stuttering, and really I think you'd just be wasting money to try and fit a stay alive into this model, because it just doesn't need it. If we now reverse the direction, slows down, stops, and then starts going again in the other way. The firebox flicker is on F3, and we can turn that on and off at will, and it will stay on when the locomotive is stationary if we wish it to. The top speed of the model is actually quite fast, probably a lot faster than you would ever require from a model, but there's plenty of controllability right down to an absolute crawl. So turn now to the scores, and first up is build quality, and by and large this is pretty good. There was no detailing parts that came off whilst I was reviewing it, and certainly it feels a very solid and substantial item. The only area where I could possibly level a criticism is this join seam at the base of the chimney, and certainly it's a necessity of the tooling to allow the two different types of funnels, but it is just a little bit noticeable, and I am going to point that out. Everything else is really great, and certainly there's not really a lot to complain about at all, so I'm going to give this a 9.9. Next up is running quality, and this model performed faultlessly. It has a huge amount of weight and an incredibly smooth running powerful motor. I also really like the fact that we've got the movement from side to side on that front axle to ensure that all four wheels make positive contact with the rails at all times. It really is a nice simple feature that goes a long way to improve performance. It handled the very short trains that I threw at it incredibly well, and that's not really a great surprise. But it does feel like this will pull a huge amount, probably far more than the prototype would ever have been tasked with. And certainly there's nothing that I can find fault with on its running quality, and I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. On DCC fitting and innovation, I do like the firebox flicker, And the fact that it comes on at a low voltage for DC users and doesn't get brighter as you increase the power does make it a very usable feature. On DCC we have that extra level of control, and it's great to see that manufacturers, particularly Dapol, are taking advantage of some of the things that DCC can offer to add this little bit extra. The DCC fitting really couldn't have been simpler. I like the way that we can just open up that front smoke box door. And I also like the fact that it's not just a plug that push fits in, it really is there on the hinges just like the real thing, which means that this is something that you could use to pose the model with, as well as giving you the access to that interior. The speaker enclosure's pre-fitted with the solder-free tabs to allow a sugar cube speaker to just be simply slotted in and work first time with none of the witchcraft and sorcery of soldering. Really does make things really easy. There's plenty of space in there, so for those who are determined to fit a Stay Alive, it will just fit. I also really like the cab roof that's held on by magnets. That's another nice touch, and not only does it mean that you can actually admire the cab interior really quite well, but it means that fitting a crew really is a doddle. As we've touched on before, that front axle that has a rocking motion from side to side, allowing all four-wheel contact with the rail at all time, dramatically improves reliability, and that just means that there is a lot of thought that's gone into this model, and it is superb, and I can only really give it a 10 out of 10. On accuracy and quality of finish, well, I really do like this black rendition. It's got just enough shine to it to make it look right, but it's not too glossy. It has to be said that all of the extra fittings too are crisp and sharp. The printing, crisp and sharp, and whilst this particular livery might not show off the best of the liveries that are available, and it would have been lovely to have seen some of the London and South Western Railway liveries, what I've seen here makes me believe that they will be equally as good. Again, the only area where I felt that perhaps there was just a little bit of a detriment is we've got this very slab-sided front just down underneath here. It to me just looks a little bit flat, but it's really a minor criticism, so I'm going to give this a 9.9. When it comes to value for money, these models are available in 3 different types, and that's for any of the liveries that are available. We've got the full factory sound fitting for just over £330. We've got them available with plain DCC on board for £242, and we've got the DCC Ready version at £213. These are the discounted prices that I have found available online, and we do have an affiliate link down below that takes you to Rails of Sheffield, where all of the different sound, non-sound and onboard DCC fitted options are currently available. You can also browse there the full range of all of the different livery options, and my particular favourite, that London and South Western Railway pea green. So to round off for value for money, I'm going to give them a 9.6. It is slightly more expensive than some of the previous O-gauge locomotives, but there has been a huge increase in the cost of production from China, and Dapol have worked well to keep these prices down. And when you consider that you get an awful lot for your money in O-gauge, these prices are actually comparable to what some of the 00 models are coming through at, albeit the more express locomotives from some manufacturers, and it still gives a great value for money. In O-gauge you don't need as much in the way of locomotives and rolling stock, and believe me, even though the temptation is there to buy, it is perfectly acceptable to have a lot less in the way of rolling stock and locomotives, and layouts don't feel empty if you only have a few items of rolling stock and a couple of locomotives. That gives us an overall score of 49.4, and that is a great score for what is an absolutely great model. If there's one thing that I take away from this review, it's that Dapol, I can't believe you've done this to me. This is a loaner, I've got to give it back, but it has left me feeling that I so need an O-gauge B4 in my life, so I think I'm going to be first in line in the queue to go to Rails and pick up one of these. Oh well, it's only money. Well, I hope you really enjoyed today's video and found it informative, and certainly I really do like the B4 dock tank. It's a quirky little machine, and helped by the fact, I guess, that 2 examples did manage to reach preservation and can be seen operating in the UK. I just love small shunting locomotives, be they steam or diesel, and the B4 in Dapol really did capture my heart, so I was quite interested to see just what Dapol were going to do with this O-gauge version. And I think, from my personal point of view, I think that they knocked it out of the park. It's got a lot of really great features, as you saw in today's video, and I really like some of the simple ones. You know, let's get away from the big ticket stuff that people can see readily, like that roof that you can remove on the cab, the firebox flicker, the easy way that we can DCC fit it. For me, the unsung hero is possibly the amount of motion from side to side that that front axle can do, which means that all 4 wheels will remain in positive contact with your track, even if there's undulations or things like point frogs as a wheel just drops down slightly. And that is massively important to keep the locomotive on the move and not get any stutters. And that in turn means you don't really need a stay alive if you're modelling on DCC. Certainly there's a temptation to add them to everything, but really honestly this locomotive just doesn't need it, so save yourself a few pennies. But I'd love to know what you thought of this model. Do leave a comment in the comment section down below, and it'd be great to hear from you. Do you have one of these, or is this certainly something that's on your hit list? And we do have that affiliate link to Rails of Sheffield to help you out if you want to go and browse all the different livery versions that are currently available. You can also check us out over on Patreon and help us to keep making the videos that you want to see. We've got a number of different tiers of rewards, and a huge thank you to everybody who does support the channel. You are absolute legends. Also the channel members too, you are total heroes and helping us to keep getting this video content out there. But until next time, this is me, Jenny Kirk, saying you take great care of yourself. Happy modelling. Bye for now. Today's video comes in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCC decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabrique.co.uk. Additional support is provided by...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model double O gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com, and don't miss out on your latest loco.
I'd like to send out a huge thanks to everybody who supports me on Patreon, but a special thanks go out to Anthony Kidson, Offshore Allen, Michael Lockie, Helen Sink, Gary Lewis, David Quinn, Sparky107107, George Botterini, Chris Moss, Robert Steers, Sam Yates, Dale Williams, John N from NC, NYMRish, Jonathan Foster, Peter, Clifford Ison, Larry W. Grant, NI Railways 4000 class, Ian Coulson, Alan Dickerson, Eddie Papere, Karen Nichol, Medwin Williams, Crossways Point Junction, 3B Rail, Jennifer Horton, Michael Rose, Trains with Nick, and Simon Snow. Thank you. Without you guys, I couldn't do this.